Okay, so thank you for coming once again. And now I'm going to share something different, a little bit about the making of the onion video.
And during the slideshow now, please add your questions into the chat.
All right, so we had a challenge from the conference committee to create a video and do it without speaking our native languages. And that was really interesting to me. As soon as I heard it, I thought, that's something I want to try. It sounds like fun. The timing of it, I think, was a little bit challenging. If we think about the timeline, I wrote the script on May 22. I checked the Google document and I found that's when I started. I tried to recruit actors throughout the month of June. And then I finally got my cast the first week of July. We took 5 weeks. We met 4 times for about an hour each time to rehearse and record the thing. And then in August, I took about 2 weeks for editing, and then I put it away for the month of September. And then in October at the beginning, we had our submission time. Now, because of the rehearsal schedule, because I was planning to do this as a summer project when I wasn't too busy, we were going to do this before anybody was vaccinated. And I had to keep that in mind. So one of my big questions was, how can I do this safely? How can I do this and keep it socially distanced? And so I thought, okay, I'll do it on Zoom. That's one way I can keep it socially distanced. But if we do it on Zoom, the problem is it's kind of static. We're all locked in these different boxes and people can't move around so much. And it tends to not be very interactive. People don't look at each other. You don't get the responses as much. And I thought, okay, how can we overcome that and make it more interactive? So I thought, okay, we'll do it Brady Bunch style. We'll look at each other. We'll turn our heads when we're talking to each other. We'll look up. So that means we need at least 4 people in the video. And what else can we do to make it visually interesting? Well, we can pass an object around. You know, the pen video had gone viral earlier, and I thought, well, that's a cool way to do it. So we decided to pass around an object. Originally, I thought a potato, but then we changed it to an onion later on. And so the question I had to ask myself was, who would be passing around an onion on Zoom? And they need to be people who are interested in onions, and they have to be the kind of people who would have a meeting on Zoom. They have to have a reason for being on Zoom. So who has meetings on Zoom? Students have meetings on Zoom, and organizations may have meetings on Zoom. So we decided to have this be an organization about onions. Yes, it was, yeah, Brady Bunch and The Muppet Show were big influences for this. All right. Then, yeah, I'm glad some of you remember the 1970s and you can appreciate my influences there. All right. I need to recover my mouse. There we go. So this is the script that we were working with. You don't need to read it, of course, but the basic setup was I had the English, I wrote the script in English, and then I put that on the left. For each line, I worked on a translation on my own or with the help of Papago or with the help of my husband and my daughter. I knew that it was going to be a problem to pass things because of the mirror image in Zoom. the default mode in Zoom is a mirror image of what your audience will see. And I knew that would be kind of confusing. So I thought I would tell my actors to think of their interaction from what we call stage perspective in theater. So this is stage perspective. President is on the left, secretary is on the right. And then if I move ahead to the end of my script, I warned everybody that we would have the opposite perspective from the audience. They would see the president on the top right. They would see the secretary on the top left. And we also, a really crucial thing to know about Zoom is that you can click and drag the video feeds on Zoom to different locations. So we could plan to have people in different locations. But even though we knew that that would be problematic ahead of time, it was still kind of a pain to figure out how to do it once we were working on it. If you want to try this at home, one of the first things you need to do is unclick mirror my video in the video settings. And that gives you the perspective that your audience will see, which is helpful because, if everybody does that, and if you configure everybody's pictures the way the audience will see them, we can see whether we're lining up. But it was still kind of difficult because every time I had to pass the onion this direction, I had to face this direction. I couldn't really see whether it was lining up because I was looking the opposite direction of where the onion was passing. So we agreed that whenever we did a horizontal pass, it would be along the bottom of the screen. Whenever we did a vertical pass, it would be directly up and down the center of the screen. And sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't, but you know, that's what retakes are for. All right, then. One of the challenges with working with the Zoom is just making it visually interesting because we all are, besides making it visually interesting, another challenge is the sound delay, the 2-second sound delay. And we had some problems with timing because of that. That was, what did I do there? Come on, slide, advance for me, please. There we go. Oh, why is my slide not advancing? I must be clicking in the wrong place. I can't really see which one advances it. That's, okay, no. Okay, here we go. Thanks, all right. So we've got the onion drop and we had to get the timing for this. So we timed it to the line that Lisa, the treasurer, was speaking. So Eric's son, who is Eric, the treasurer's son, who is standing right behind his computer, dropped the onion 2 syllables before Lisa finished her line, and that's how we got it coordinated. And then to make it visually interesting, we played around with the distance from the camera. And, you know, you can't do a lot, but at least this can, with camera angles when you're on Zoom, but this adds a little bit of variety. So we tried that a few times. It was also handy in this scene because my daughter, who's in middle school, is a much smaller person than Eric, the treasurer. So we moved her arm much closer to the screen so that it would look as thick as Eric's. And then also for visual variety, we added presenter view. And we did that with the voiceovers. We pre-recorded the voiceovers and we had the people play the voiceovers in their own location so that they could time their reactions to the recording. And Otherwise, you know, if I played the recording from where I was, all of their reactions would be delayed. And then here is a magic trick that we used. It's one of the oldest magic tricks in film. I started with a peeled onion, and then a second later, it became an unpeeled onion. So how did we do that? Maybe you can tell me. This was a scene. Yes, exactly. Yeah. My daughter was recording. My son was standing just off camera. So she hit pause on the cell phone. He swooped in, swapped out the onions, and then she started recording again. All right. And then this was another tricky thing. I had this fake online encyclopedia page, which I put on my phone. I took a screenshot of my phone and then I converted it to a PowerPoint slide. And then I added the content that we wanted on the encyclopedia page. I saved it as an image and sent it back to my phone. Now this scene, the special effects were not that difficult. I mean, fog was one of the special effects options in the software that I was using. The tricky part here was actually trying to make our faces look dirty and trying to get the dirt to stick to our faces. And Jeremy actually came up with a solution to that. You need to mix some oil with the dirt and then it sticks. And then I wanted to show you the design process that I used for some of the images here. At some point while we were rehearsing, Jeremy, the president, said, you know, it would be really nice if we had a conference banner behind me. And so that was my challenge, to design a banner. And I was kind of inspired by the TESOL international symbol. You know, it has a globe with latitude and longitude lines. And I thought, okay, well, an onion skin has vertical lines. They look a little bit like longitude lines. So I created this image by taking a globe photograph and then cropping an onion illustration, and I stuck that on top of it. And then, so I had this illustration, which I really liked. And I thought, we need a font that looks really Korean. So maybe a brush script. And then if we have a brush script, we need a background that looks kind of Korean. So maybe some hanji. And if we have this kind of background, then we really ought to have the writing vertical, and it needs to be right to left. So we ended up with an image like this, and I thought, oh, this is really cool, but it doesn't look like an online conference at all. Mm-hmm. So I tossed that one out. I went back to this design and I put some color in. I decided blue, and if it has blue, then we need to brighten up the onion a bit, and I changed it to this. It was really useful to have this design because just places to use a design popped up here and there and everywhere while we were working on the video. So you can see here's the website that I made, or yeah, the fake website. And of course, we have the poster on the right here, and you can see Jeremy has the same banner behind him. And oh, I have one more thing to say about this website. Do you recognize it? Does it remind you of anything that's familiar to you? I'm not hearing, oh, maybe somebody's typing it in the chat room there. Oh, okay, yeah, well, there we go. Yeah, this is the KOTESOL website. If you see the layout, you can recognize that. So basically, these are onions engaged in a professional development activity. We have the little logo over a letter, at the top. We've got the upcoming event on the right. Oh, and we have a human Easter egg here. Did you know that Lisa is in fact the KOTESOL National Secretary? So, if you looked at Lisa and thought, wow, how does she just exude society secretariness? That's because she is. She just embodies that. All right. So, and I think that's all I have for the making of. So I'm going to go out of screen share.
Thank you so much again for the video and your slideshow description of the video process. I really love the plot. It was full of stealth and mystery, like a Black Panther. So
Ooh,
we have some questions. It may.
What Easter egg number would that be?
Oh, that's number 5. So
that's number 5, yes.
Oh yeah, I put it in the chat.
Oh, sweet.
And we have a few questions already here. Fiona is wondering, did all 4 of you work together on the script, or Heidi, was this your own amazing idea?
This was my baby. I wrote the script. It was not collaborative. I probably, if I had assigned it to students, I probably would have demanded that they write it collaboratively.
Okay, and how many retakes did you have to do?
How many retakes? Well, okay, that's a difficult question. We recorded some of our rehearsals, and that was really helpful for me because, I'm looking away from the screen a lot of times. I couldn't see what the actors were doing. So all of the feedback that I gave to the other actors was based off watching the videos after the rehearsal. And but then when we finally said, this is when we're going to do it in costume, we did every scene 2 times, just hoping that one of them would be good enough. And the question that I asked myself when I was selecting the first or second take was basically, did the onions line up? That was the most important thing. Actually, I wanted to do it all in one take because I was really nervous about editing. I'd never done any video editing before. Theater is a more familiar genre for me. And my original thought for the things that ended up being the presenter view voiceover segments, I was going to have 3 of the actors freeze as though they had lost their internet connection. I thought, if we did that purposefully, it would just look kind of fun. But in the end, it was too demanding to sustain it from beginning to end. But moving into the presenter view, which I recorded at the very end, like we'd go from one presenter view segment to the next presenter view segment, and that was one segment. We'd record that twice, and then we'd take a breath and review our lines, and then go on to recording the next segment.
Do you know how many hours of rehearsal and filming altogether?
Yeah, it was almost exactly 5 hours.
Okay.
We met 4 times. The first 3 times we just met for an hour. And then the last time we were all in costume, we were ready to go. And, it was all, this is it. And we all have to get done before bedtime because we all have 2 children that we need to get off to bed.
And okay, another question from Ashley. Which software had you used
for the recording? Well, Zoom. And then my cell phone for the recording. And then for video editing, I used Cyberlink Power Director 14 because that was what was pre-installed on my computer.
Oh, sorry. Could you type those in the chat, Heidi?
Sure. Can you do that again?
Okay, I used Cyberlink Power Director. I was using version 14, which I think is an older version. Maybe, yeah, there are probably newer versions that can do more than what I did. And I've been looking at some of the student videos and other videos, and I'm thinking, wow, they were capable of doing much more than I did. Well, maybe they just know their software better too.
Great. And Ashley wonders, what was your inspiration for the concept?
Okay, well, yeah, we have that pen video, the famous pen. There was a pen challenge on TikTok and YouTube. So at the beginning of the pandemic, there were a lot of videos with people passing objects back and forth. I found them sort of mesmerizing. So that was one inspiration. Some of you have named my other inspirations. I think Brady Brunch is an obvious inspiration, and The Muppet Show. I mean, and Sesame Street. How many times have you seen something explode behind Kermit the Frog, and then at the end he's kind of wobbly? So yeah, those 1970s influences were very much a part of it.
I was curious how you settled on onion.
An onion.
As
Oh, Lisa is here. Lisa was part of that. Oh, by the way, if you want to get somebody's autograph, Lisa's the one to go to. She teaches calligraphy. Okay, yeah. So we started with potato and then we switched to onion for two reasons. One is that Netflix has a film about the Potato Peel Society. We didn't want to have the same name. And the other thing was that Lisa's family doesn't eat potatoes much. And so she wanted a vegetable that was more convenient, right?
Oh, we do eat potatoes when we're given them, but I don't buy them unless my mother-in-law gives me them. So, you know, we didn't have any when you mentioned it. So that's why I was like, really? Do I actually have to buy potatoes? So yeah, that's all. But you know, the onions, they've got multi-layers and so many colors.
Right.
Really
And they
fun.
Roll too. I was thinking
Right.
at the beginning, I had a much longer sequence planned. You know, at the beginning we have the knife cutting the onion, but the onion changes. I was thinking of just a little bit of stage business where I'd turn the onion around, listen to it, shake it, roll it away, have it roll back as a different onion. But I just got so impatient with that. It's like, I want to get on to the main story. So yeah, I cut that.
Heidi, you mentioned you thought that through Zoom, everyone's in the same place in their quadrant, and that was maybe limiting, but I think there's a lot that students could do with that, and many advantages. It seems like the biggest challenge for me with group projects is students need to coordinate how they can meet together in the same place at the same time. So if they're doing it on Zoom, then they can all be remote and put it together.
Right, and it can solve a lot of issues like with miking. I didn't have to worry about that because I was never like in an open air setting. And then the beginning was all kind of silent too.
We have some more time. Any other questions from the audience?
Well, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say I've watched it several times, and every time it's just as funny as the first one. So I'm just so impressed. It's hilarious. Yeah, on so many levels. Like, I love all your expressions and your reactions and your timing and, like, you know, passing everything like you explained, how difficult it was to get it. But it was just, the end product was just awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun to make. It was a fun puzzle to have. And, you know, I'm so grateful to KOTESOL for issuing this challenge. You know, I've been kind of reflecting over the years how many things, how many skills I've acquired because of my involvement with KOTESOL. The first time I had ever created a PowerPoint slideshow 20 years ago was for a soul chapter conference. And, you know, over the years, KOTESOL has kept challenging me in different ways to acquire new skills. And this, I think, has been one of the biggest and most interesting challenges that I've received from KOTESOL. So I hope that KOTESOL will issue this kind of challenge again, maybe not exactly the same, or maybe exactly the same. Maybe now that people have seen some videos, they might be interested in trying it out. They'll see it as something that can be done. But then different challenges too. I mean, I hope the organization keeps stretching the community and giving us ideas of ways to grow.
Heidi, I was wondering, have you done video projects with your students before, or
Yes.
based on what? Okay, I'm curious about those, and also what you did as a team, and moving forward, what do you think you would try to use with students in the future?
Okay, yeah. The video projects I've done before with my students were much simpler than this, and they had to be. I mean, if I put an estimate of how much time I put into this, a conservative estimate would be 20 hours, but then there are lots of things that aren't counted, like when I take a walk and I start running through my lines in my head, that's not counted. When I stress out about things, oh, I did stress out about things. I didn't read the instructions for the project before I started. And they hadn't been put up on the website yet. They were put up in July. But one of the requirements for this video project is you can't have any logos in your project. And when I first did the video sequence leading up to the Zoom thing, well, I wanted it to feel like the audience was joining a Zoom meeting. And so I just did screen record. And of course, you go to the Zoom website, you've got the Zoom logo. I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to redo this. I have all these icons on my desktop. And then, you know, the picture of the onion is not just a picture of an onion, it's a picture from everybody's favorite online encyclopedia, right? So I was like, I really stressed over that. What am I going to do about this specific reference to a specific organization in my video? And so I tried deleting the sound, I tried muting the sound, I tried dubbing over it. Every time I tried to fix it, I don't know if it's my software or just my skill level or what, but the picture froze. And so I deleted that word. That's why it's a little jumpy in one part of the video. So yeah, there were things that I had to go back and re-record. Oh, where was I?
Oh,
yeah, I was talking about.
There was so much more time than students should have to do for a video project.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking about stressing out. Like the stressing out about it wasn't included in my 20 hours. Right, that's one of the reasons I had to put it away for a while and come back to work on it later. And then I had a very leisurely schedule. You know, you can't spend 4 months working on something when you're working on it with students. So I would do something more scaffolded if I were working with students. I'd want to limit the time that they spend on it. I tend to try to encourage students to have their meetings together during class time, because that's the time that they've already scheduled to meet together. So what I've done in the past, sometimes I've had students do little documentaries, cooking shows, and we've just recorded those in class. And part of the reason behind that is I didn't want to overburden the students with homework. And another thing I do very differently, as I've mentioned before, I try to make the creative process more collaborative. This whole thing was very much my baby from beginning to end. I was the only person who got any practice with script writing. I was the only person who got any practice with editing. with this thing. I would work to not do that with my students. I would be much more demanding on my students. I would make a smaller project, but I would make it more difficult for them because I believe in task-based learning. I believe in meaningful negotiation of information. Yeah, Lisa?
Yeah, but Heidi, I think with it being us that was helping you out as actors, honestly, I don't think that we would have been able to join you if we were also required to take part
Right.
in that. So
Right,
just
yeah,
due
and
to
I
the
was
nature
very
of
aware
the
of that.
beast. I
Yeah.
mean, students are paying you to put them through that sort of ordeal, but
Right.
you know, I mean, I was happy to take the time to memorize, and gosh, wow, what an experience it was. Like, it just made me step back and think about, you know, maybe giving my students that little bit of extra grace to, you know, take the time to think about what they're trying to say, because
Right.
it really is hard to get your intonation and fluency and everything when you're trying to speak.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, due to the nature of the beast, I mean, you needed to be the one who was doing all the writing, and I thank you for that.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, I was thinking, what I look at the video and I think, why was I saying my line so slowly there? Well, it's because if I say it slowly and if I have a big gesture with it, that gives me more time to remember my next line. Yeah, it was a challenge, much more of a challenge to memorize lines in Korean. And I was, you know, very conscious of demanding time and investment from other people who were just doing it for fun, right? You know, with my students, I probably would demand that they do their rehearsal in Korean, like do their talk, discuss where should I be looking at this point, those kinds of things. I would ask them to do that in Korean, but that would have been hugely demanding. Lisa, do you think we could have figured it out in Korean if we had infinite time?
I think we, am I on? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're
think
on.
we could have, because a lot of those sorts of things are like basic general conversation things, which we are comfortable with in Korean. But when it came down to the lines, I
Mhm.
knew what was going on, but you had chosen some vocabulary that maybe is your favorite vocabulary, but I'm used to using a different word for that
Mhm.
concept.
No,
So,
that was part of the result of me writing the script in English. The Korean script is beyond my Korean level. I had input from my husband and my daughter and other people as well. And
yeah, there was
I
one
often,
word, what was it? Hikyan?
yeah, that was
I think it
probably a
must be
typing
said
error.
differently up there than it is down here. Or my daughter was like reviewing that one with me like there was no tomorrow, because number one, it's just, I would normally say Tukian or Isangan or something like that, but
Mhm.
it's a word that I don't normally choose to use because I had never heard it before. And but I mean, funny thing though, since then I've thought about it a couple of times, so it's really an effective method of using of learning language.
Mhm. Yeah, so actually one thing that I do use in a lot of different kinds of classes, like writing classes, I encourage students to brainstorm bilingually, because they're going to be more creative in their native language and they're going to push themselves to express what they want to say rather than just what can I say in the
Yes.
target language.
Well, just letting you know, we have 2 minutes or so, a few more minutes left, and the Easter egg is posted in the chat. If you scroll up a little bit, you can see that if you missed it the first time. So any other questions? Last or final thoughts or questions?
Heidi, are you inspired to make any other similar video, comedy style? And if so, what would it be?
No, I haven't thought about it yet. I need the challenge. I need somebody to issue a challenge. I need some incentive to do it, I think. We had an audience for this, and I play for an audience. And but I'm totally game if somebody's up for doing something in the future. I'm there. I'm on the team. If you want to write something, I'll act. I'll do whatever.
Okay, Heidi, I'm listening and I'm recording this. I've got it on file. Sorry, I've been multitasking, but this has been really cool. Just saying, I got you. I heard you say that. I will give you one.
possibility of
ha.
That was
international
dangerous to say,
conference.
wasn't it?
You never
Me too.
know.
Me too. I'll be contacting you.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Yeah, it
there'd
was
be
just fun.
some way to be able to include it as a podcast deal. I'll reach out to Greg and we'll get the ball really rolling for the international conference.
We can, I think we can stick around a few more minutes, but let's give Heidi a big round of applause. Please unmute your microphone. And thank you so much for your presentation, Heidi, and the discussion was really, really cool as well. I will stop the recorder now.